Oh, check. Hello. Can you hear
There
me?
you go.
Hi.
Yes.
Excellent. Johnny's not coming in today. He's a little, I guess, bagged out from rehearsals or something. So
Okay, yeah, because he's doing the ACDC.
that's right. That's right. So he won't be with us today, but we will do our best to make do in his absence. And hello, chat room. We'll be up in a second. Does it sound okay? Hi, folks. Good morning, Carl. Hey, Julie. What's happening, Bryson Raleigh? Kimchi, what's happening? EO, good to see you. Claire, hello. I don't know why I went into Larry King just then, but it's completely reasonable. It's completely okay. Be up in just a minute. This is the Carter Page is an Idiot episode. Man, the wind here is nuts.
Thirty seconds.
Yep.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum. Things are going to start happening to me now.
Live exclusively for WCPT AM and FM in Chicago and streaming worldwide at chicagosprogressivetalk.com. Standing up and speaking out, here's Hal Sparks.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
To do the vibes.
All of the lies are coming out into the open. All of the lies, according to Carter Page, the single dumbest member of the Trump pentablet. I don't know, the group of 5/6 advisors to Donald Trump that specifically have direct ties to the Kremlin, who have been useful idiots for the Kremlin, have been either manipulated and unaware of this manipulation, or completely aware and have been hiding their connection. Of all of those people, Flynn, Manafort, Bannon, and heretofore members that have not come to light, including Donald Trump himself, Carter Page has to be the dumbest. Carter Page is at one time the Kremlin described him, the two, I guess, operatives of the FSB that were seeking to play him as an asset, as an idiot. They described him as dumb. And he's been described in the media as wackadoodle, is I think my favorite phrase for him. When he appeared on Chris Hayes, engaged in, I think, some of the dumbest political lying I've ever seen. I mean, there's getting caught in something, in a lie. There's a point where you're confronted with a piece of tape that contradicts what you're saying, all those elements. But I think Carter Page's handling of just an engaged questioning by Chris Hayes is probably the most amazing element of this, in that all Chris Hayes did was ask him a couple of times. In this fact, Carter Page was the equivalent of Will Ferrell's cameo in Austin Powers. He just can't stand to be asked 3 times, so he has to tell you the answer because it's just so irritating. In discussing his speaking with the Russian ambassador at the RNC in Cleveland, he at first said, I didn't meet with him, and then if I did meet with him, I only met with him in Cleveland, and I probably didn't, but if I did, we didn't speak sanctions, but there's no way to tell if we spoke sanctions. And then it comes out recently that he's not ruling out that they spoke sanctions, and literally said, let's see what the FBI's transcripts say. I mean, that is a stunning level of dismissal of reality and truth. You either, because there's only 2 possibilities here, and I'm a big fan of the 2 possibility, incompetent or illegal, crooked or crazy in the case of Carter Page, is that he either doesn't remember if he spoke about sanctions with the Russian ambassador and whomever else. As famously Manafort said, they don't wear badges that tell you're speaking to a Russian agent. You're like, yeah, that's why you should actually do due diligence on someone before you start spilling your guts and telling people, going, yeah, you can help us with the campaign. What's your address again? St. Petersburg? That's in Florida, right? It's amazing how slapdash Flynn was, considering, he got bit by the irony bug with the lock her up about Hillary Clinton. This had to be lock her up. She's a crook. If I did 1/14 the amount of stuff that she did, I'd be in jail by now. Turns out he participated in direct treason, has registered himself as a foreign agent, in a, I guess, act of political post-mortem, attempting to bring the patient back to life after it's already been buried. He decided to register himself after the fact as a federal agent or as a foreign agent of a foreign government. Mainly, it would seem that the FBI said, okay, look, you go back, register as a foreign agent because we have this on you. Here's the evidence. This is the reality you have to deal with. You either go back and legally register yourself as a foreign agent, exactly what you were, or we charge you with not doing it. And by doing it, that's the admission of a singular act of the crime, which ties you to the other 4 pieces of evidence that they have out of 5. And they may have more. I'm just using this as an example. So he goes back and registers himself as a foreign agent, and then immediately flips and is talking to the FBI. Manafort goes through almost the exact same piece of legal gymnastics, registers as an agent of a foreign government after the fact, and everybody's expecting, if he hasn't already, that he flips and starts spilling the beans in the next 2 weeks. Carter Page literally is playing so fast and loose with reality that he is quoted as saying, well, we'll see what the FBI transcripts of my phone calls have, because it turns out he was the source of the FISA warrant that the FBI got to intercept in phone calls between a member of the Trump campaign slash an American dealing with financial networks slash an American dealing with politics in this country, talking to Russian spies, either in total ignorance or awareness. And again, this goes, and on one side, Fox is using this as the aha. They got a FISA warrant to trace the calls of Carter Page, and that's what led them to unmask everybody else in the Trump campaign, and this was a coordinated effort by the Obama White House. Never mind the fact that any police officer, any member of law enforcement will tell you that there's essentially a tipping point when you are caught calling a mobster, a drug dealer, a banker known to launder drug money. They can only kind of turn a blind eye because of the legal rules that they observe up to a certain point. Because once you pass that tipping point, whatever it is, whether it's 5 calls or 25 calls, oftentimes when they're being extra judicious or careful about it before they allow the unmasking, it's up in the 20s. That you look at the number of calls and the interaction between Carter Page, between these 2 Russians who were trying to flip him, or were successful, by the way, during the Trump campaign, and then in finding that these 2 guys who you know are Russian agents, specifically spies, who else are they talking to on the phone that comes from a U.S. number? And why are they all coming from the same building? At a certain point in law enforcement, this is just standard operating procedure. They don't even have to overstep or seek higher authority in this. This is normalized capturing of racketeering style mob behavior. And when you're dealing with the Russians, that's the only way they operate. Russia is a kleptocracy. It is run by gangsters who are funneling money out of the country at a frightening clip, to the detriment of the Russian people on a scale that we as Americans, when we talk about how the wealth disparity in the United States and have a genuine bone to pick about that, there's no comparison between what's going on in the Russian economy and what is going on here. It is over the top criminality. As Alexei Navalny pointed out in his campaign before they jailed him as a part of a way of stopping protests within the country. and smashed up his offices and stole his computers and all of his information so that they could set this process of awareness back, because that's effectively what's going on in Russia right now. This is a huge awareness campaign that's being pushed. And I would not doubt on a personal level, I have no evidence of this, but I don't doubt on a personal level that they're not actively involved. That the CIA isn't actively involved in helping this along. And when you have back here people being so outlandish and so slapdash with reality by saying things like there is no evidence of collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign or Donald Trump himself. And by the way, I have little to no concern about the campaign aspect of it, except for that law must be carried forward. That if a crime is committed within the statute of limitations, that crime should be gone after. But in terms of the Trump White House, there is no reason to believe that collusion does not continue, that this Syrian nonsense is not part of that smokestack and requires an even deeper look, because this is affecting the national security of the United States on a scale that we were worried about. When we come back, we're going to delve into Carter Page a little bit. And as dumb as he is, and he is, ladies and gentlemen, an idiot, he's the perfect person to be an example of how the Trump campaign's conspiratorial behavior works. We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Go to halsparks.tv and join us on the Ustream, the YouTube stream right now, and like and subscribe. Somebody's coming up to ask me how to work a Lego game. I know it. You okay? Come here.
I don't really know what to do.
Yeah?
I don't know what I have to do.
Well, it's a puzzle. You got to solve it.
I can't solve it. I don't know what I'm doing.
I understand. I know.
I need your help to help me.
Well, I'm doing radio right now, so you got to figure it out on your own. That was our deal, right? You can pause it and play after if you want. You want to do that? Okay. Well, just keep at it, and I'll try. In the next break, I'll try and help you if I can. Okay? We got a bit of a Lego issue. Cam had an accident yesterday, day before yesterday. I've lost track of time. Day before yesterday. Fell and hit his head on table. Got 5 stitches right across here. Yeah. It was not a welcome parenting moment. But we handled it, and he's being a trooper, and he was so good at the doctor's office getting his stitches, and he's letting me do wound care. We have to change the bandage 3 times a day, and yeah, it was a scary moment. It was not fun, because he just looked up and he was like, "I did something wrong." I was like, "What happened to you?" "Oh my God!" And then just blood pouring out of it, because it's a head wound, and that's what happens. But
20 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
I hope he's okay.
He's great. He's, he'll heal great. It's doing really good, but he was bleeding like a stuck pig. It was crazy. It was like, but I stopped the bleeding when we went to the hospital and got stitches, and everybody was great. He was lovely. Poor baby. This heartbreaking. I've got PTSD from 2 days ago.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
Welcome back to the show. So, I have to say, I think for a lot of progressives and liberals, we've all watched this train wreck that is the Trump White House, you know, with a mixture of like I told you so kind of flabbergasted, mixed with a little bit of joy of being so right about something, and then a major chunk of this is just bad for the country, and I can't be that happy about it. It's a big, you know, we're just juggling these three emotions all the time, and they're particularly mixed up when an obvious act of conspiratorial behavior is going on in the Trump campaign over the course of the last, you know, year, and there's evidence coming out that there is collusion. There is evidence that's supposed to be rock solid. That's the new reports from this week, that it's going to be a major story in the next coming 2 weeks. Also, it's curious to me that, like we were talking about before the break, Flynn registers himself as a foreign agent, then flips to the FBI, leads to Manafort registering himself posthumously, career-wise, I guess, as a foreign agent. And then as they're questioning him about this, as they're clearly going through a deeper investigative process, that's when we get the story that that there is concrete evidence of collusion. Then we start having this Syria thing break out that says this is the worst our relations with Russia have been in forever, because we fired on a base, PS gave the Russians previous notice so they could get out of the way. They passed it along to the Assad regime so they could move their stuff out of the way. We basically bombed 3 hangars in an act of showboating military exercise. Everybody called BS on it, so we dropped the mother of all bombs in Afghanistan on an ISIS tunnel complex because moving these, you know, this sort of fanciful attack in Syria, while people like Brian Williams took the bait, I think a lot of reasonable voices were questioning the genuineness of this attack. So then we, you know, so you look at Flynn, an amazing example of somebody ironically calling for Hillary Clinton to be jailed, calling for criminal investigation, leading Chance of lock her up, saying that if he did even a fraction of what she did, which, by the way, what'd she do? She had a private server. Apparently, the 30,000 missing emails, still missing. So again, I don't want to have to make the case over again for having a private server as an act of security, but it worked. What was hacked? Podesta's private email, which was on a corporate service. The actual Department of State was hacked. Hillary Clinton's server apparently never hacked. None of that stuff has come out. The Podesta emails that WikiLeaks got a hold of were from a corporate server. So again, somebody tell me exactly why that's not the best way to keep secure documents secure, is having oversight over your own machine, which is effectively all that is. Okay, never mind. All right, so Flynn yelling, lock her up. Now he registers as a foreign agent. Now he's the march towards him being charged for certain things and not others already happening. Timing rolls out. Manafort follows the same way. Carter Page, again, described as a wackadoodle. This is, for the right in some cases, indicative of this is what the Obama administration was doing. They were looking into us. You know, they were looking into us the entire time. They were breaking into our, phone calls illegally, Susan Rice didn't have the right to unmask who was being talked to. Again, the same argument you hear from a criminal defense attorney for somebody who was, pulled over on the side of the road for a busted taillight, who had tires made out of heroin and a corpse in the trunk, arguing illegal search and seizure. Never mind that fact that most of the time right-wingers have zero tolerance for that argument. These are my rights, and you didn't have a right to look in the trunk in the first place. Find me the non-Rand Paul, anyways, Republican who's totally cool with a car that's pulled over and fights a probable cause because I heard thumps coming from the trunk idea. Find me that. It doesn't happen. The right is we need law and order. No, we don't have law and order. We need law and order, folks. We need law and order. I'm going to be the law and order president. I'm going to have law and order, or order and law, whatever order the law comes in. I don't care, as long as I order some law from room service and I get it. So he's going to be the law and order president, except when his campaign gets, his administration gets pulled over to the curb for a clear traffic violation, and it finds out they were drunk behind the wheel and they have Russians in the trunk, I guess operating the car by remote control, if I want to carry out this analogy to its bitter end. Okay, so on so many fronts, Carter Page is bizarrely dumb in his presentation of his defense, of his facts that are, it's impressive how goofy Carter Page's arguments are most of the time. And never forget that a month ago, news comes out. This is from March 7th. Trump campaign approved advisor's trip to Moscow. So never mind the fact that Carter Page is making the case that he only spoke to the Russian ambassador in Cleveland, didn't discuss sanctions. If he ever spoke to him, it was only there. Turns out Donald Trump's former campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, approved foreign policy advisor Carter Page's now infamous trip to Moscow last summer on the condition that he would not be an official representative of the campaign, according to former campaign advisor. Now, that just sounds like, does anybody really, so he's literally meant to be a foreign policy advisor for the campaign. They arranged for the trip. Corey Lewandowski signs off on the trip, but only on the condition that he's not officially working for the campaign while he's over there. What is he working on, a wink level? At what point do you stop getting a paycheck? Corey Lewandowski was still working for the campaign when he was on CNN. He was getting 2 paychecks for selling the Trump campaign. One of them was from CNN. So here you've got Carter Page not working in an official capacity, even though they signed off on the trip, they arranged for it, and he was getting paid as a foreign policy advisor during the time? Give me a break. Okay. A few weeks before he traveled to Moscow to give a July 7th speech, Page asked J.D. Gordon, his supervisor on the campaign's National Security Advisory Committee, for permission to make the trip. Gordon strongly advised against it. Gordon, a retired naval officer, told Politico. Page then emailed Lewandowski and spokeswoman Hope Hicks asking for formal approval, and was told by Lewandowski that he could make the trip, but not as an official representative of the campaign. The former campaign advisor said the advisor spoke on condition of anonymity because he has not been authorized to discuss internal campaign matters. The trip is now a focus of congressional and FBI investigation into Russian influence in the 2016 presidential election. Lewandowski told Politico he did not recall the email exchange with Page, but he did not deny that it occurred. There's a ton of this going on in the Trump camp. The current Trump campaign's legal defense is, I'll deny it up to the point of ignorance because I honestly don't know what the FBI has on me right now, because I'm not even aware of the amount of collusion going on. We got to take a break. When we come back, we will talk a little bit more about this, and then we'll take some calls, 773-763-9278. It's the Housemarks radio program, mega worldwide on WCPT, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Oh, Jay Giles. I don't get this. So literally after all this nonsense came down, by the way, chat room, this is just for you guys. Lewandowski says, I've never met or spoken with Carter Page in my life. The man was a foreign policy advisor for the campaign you worked on. How do you not at least meet everybody? Especially because they were selling this idea that the campaign was, running on, it was a slimline campaign. It was streamlined. Nobody, there was no extraneous extras. It was just the true believers, and we don't need this big giant thing. We're running lean. Sorry, was the audio weird during that bit? Plausible deniability. It's implausible though. Trump keeps them in different closets, right? That's right. Everybody's got like it's like Ex Machina. He's got everybody in a thing. Out of curiosity, we're using the iPhone for. It's actually, this is an iPod Touch. It's what I use to get to Chicago and back. It's the app is on there. I used to have to bring a big piece of gear, but that's what Tieline has, an app, and I run it off an iPod Touch because if I run it off the phone, I need a secondary adapter because the iPhone doesn't have a regular audio jack on it. So right now I'm just using a camera mic on this because it's the clearest one I can get on here, and all I need is one thing out. This is the smallest setup I've traveled with. It sounds like a CB radio. Right now I'm actually talking to you guys through a Bluetooth mic, though, because I have to have two sources of audio. Just sounds old-timey. All right, that's good to know. It sounds fine when it's going out, so it might be YouTube today, but we shall see. Unless, is this thing still plugged in? That's headphones. This guy's plugged in here. That's right. Okay. Can you guys hear yeah, it's a professional habit for me to wonder about this. Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to, get the most slimline setup I can bring with the highest quality, and it's just I'm always, me, always trying. The happy ending is all Illinois, by the way, today, for everybody who's in the Chicagoland area. That's the great part. We got a good one.
$30 seconds.
Lovely. Is sound okay, Lady B?
Yes, you sound fine.
Great. I'm in Kansas. Thanks, Grycycle. Is it Grycycle? Grycycle.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
Okay, one of many elements of the experience of dealing with the Trump campaign when it was happening and the Trump White House itself is this amazing amount of ignorance around the fact that when stories are written about, and more importantly, interviews given, or in the case of President Trump, tweets come out, they're hard to shake off after the fact. If it was your own words, if it was an interview you willingly gave or a tweet you sent out, I mean, the number of Trump tweets that have come out this week from during the Obama presidency. Is he playing golf again? This is terrible. I would never strike Syria. That's an idiot move. China's a currency manipulator. We need to stop getting involved in, nation building. Like everything that Trump is doing right now, he slammed the Obama administration for. And in probably one of the most comedic ways possible. Like it's so obvious they could be tweets about himself from somebody like me. That's the irony. So, the story that I read to you about Carter Page, that was from a month ago. This is March 7th, March 7th. The story: Trump campaign approved advisor's trip to Moscow. Okay. In that article, Corey Lewandowski said, let's see, both Lewandowski and the White House official cast Page as a minor character on the periphery of the campaign who was a foreign policy advisor in name only. I've never met or spoken to Carter Page in my life, Lewandowski said. By the way, if you'll recall, the president said, Carter Page, PhD, and his list of people that he was going to have on board came out of his own mouth. This is not one of the peripheral people he never met. This is, okay, amazing. So this would not be so ironic, I suppose, except for the fact that literally a year ago, March 30th, 2016, when he mentioned Carter Page, there was literally an article in Bloomberg that's titled "Trump's New Russia Advisor Has Deep Ties to Kremlin's Gazprom." Carter Page brings a, quote, real-world resume and says his close relations with Russia business are a strength. A globe-trotting American investment banker, that's how they described him. The man who people are calling a wackadoodle and who's literally giving the dumbest interviews in terms of leaking, just obviously dropping accidental clues everywhere. He's literally, in the bank robbery guy, he's the guy who left his gloves at home. He can't, and he wants to turn on a light switch. Like, this is literally the guy he's the dumbest member of the crew. Last year was described as, quote, a globe-trotting American investment banker who's built a career on deals with Russia and its state-run gas company. By the way, the ones that had deals with Rex Tillerson, who got like the BFF award from Putin himself. Carter Page says his business has suffered directly from the U.S. economic sanctions imposed after Russia's escalating involvement in the Ukraine. What do you know? They bring on this guy whose business in Russia have been hurt by the fact that we put that when Russia invaded Ukraine and used thugs and mercenaries to attack the country, we put sanctions on them, and he thinks they've been hurt. When Donald Trump named him last week as one of his foreign policy advisors, Page says his email inbox filled up with positive notes from Russian contacts. So many people who I know and have worked with have been so adversely affected by the sanctions policy, Page said in a 2-hour interview last week. 2 hours, the man spoke. Okay, and not all of it's here. Where's the rest of the transcript of this interview, by the way? Okay, there's a lot of excitement in terms of the possibilities for creating a better situation. My goodness. Over the course of his campaign, Trump has been a contrarian on Russia, floating the idea of reducing the American commitment to NATO, which he reversed this week, by the way, and calling Russian President Vladimir Putin a strong leader, which he didn't. I think if you notice, by the way, all of his attacks about Russia and what Russians' involvement were and all those elements never included him saying a bad word about Putin himself, again, because it's personal. Okay. I think I would have a very good relationship with Putin, said the president last year. So it makes sense that Trump tapped Page for his foreign policy team. In writings posted online, Page is a reliable defender of Russian intentions and portrays U.S. policymakers as stuck in an outdated Cold War mindset. Page's career path, too, seems to mesh with Trump's philosophy. A billionaire developer and entertainer with no government experience, Trump isn't hiring the typical Washington policy wonks as he pursues the Republican presidential nomination. Instead, he favors advisors with what one of his staffers described to the New York Times as real-world experience. That background also carries risks, as Page, 44, readily acknowledges. Page says his parallel career as a foreign policy expert has occasionally faced skepticism over his business ties to Russia and his favorable view of its leadership. You think? It is a question I get so frequently. I lost count many decades ago, he said. The man's been dealing with business in Russia for decades, by the way, and he's the first of three people Trump mentions. Three people that he mentions when they ask, who's your foreign policy team? Yeah, he's right on his list. Okay. Page says his experience advising Russian companies and pitching deals in places like Turkmenistan will offer Trump a more practical perspective than what's available from people from afar sitting in the comfort of their think tanks in Washington. Page wouldn't discuss his policy views in detail, saying that his work with the Trump campaign is that it's an early stage and that he doesn't want to speak out of turn. He wouldn't say whether he's met or spoken with the candidate yet or how they connected, but he described a career marked by a lifelong fascination with Russia and Central Asia. Yeah, they're not talking about the fact that he's basically been broomed in by Bannon's crowd, and that's why they're keeping it quiet. This is, and this is a year ago. This story came out a year ago in Bloomberg. Literally, Trump's new Russia advisor has deep ties to Kremlin's Gazprom. Real-world resume says his close relations with Russian business are a strength. We now know that two of his connections to Russian business were actually spies, and they referred to him as a moron and as a useful idiot, essentially. This is, and here's the thing, it would be in any other White House, if there was a guy this idiotic involved in engagement with a foreign power, and especially if it was Obama or Bill Clinton, or like, can you imagine the interaction? The news media, the Fox outpouring that would have happened if not only that someone was involved this deeply with Vladimir Putin and his oligarchical kleptocracy, the fact that this guy is as bad at it and as slapdash and as dumb is the amazing part. And in many ways, he's so awkwardly incompetent on this level that it would almost set him apart from the rest of the Trump administration. Almost makes them look capable by comparison. And yet, I would argue that he is indicative of every hire that Trump has taken on, with the exception of Nikki Haley. And of all the people, like, this is literally, essentially, all the men in Kellyanne Conway are equally as foolish and as slapdash in their interaction. And it becomes obvious, I think, day after day, that most of the criticisms that they had about Hillary Clinton were effectively created through the prism of their own incompetence, their own lack of technical knowledge, their own ignorance about the issues and whom they were interacting with. The reason they said she doesn't know who she's talking to or who can look into that server is because they don't know who they're talking to and interacting with and who's looking into their server. Donald Trump has a private server in the basement of, well, it might be on the top floor, who knows, in Trump Tower that is linked to a Russian bank. If anybody believes for 1 second that Vladimir Putin would allow a private server linked to a Russian bank to be housed in a building and not have that place wiretapped himself is, Carter Page level dumb. And in many ways, the FISA warrant to follow Carter Page may or may not have led to the discovery of that particular server or the connections around the fact that not only has Donald Trump, over the course of his renting life in Trump Tower, housed Russian mobsters running illegal gambling and prostitution rings out of the building. The guys who went to jail years ago for this kind of thing. But the fact that he has a server link to a Russian bank, which is effectively what it would be for other than to bounce transactions through a secondary space, I can't tell you unless they're literally housing digital information. What is that? Just where they back stuff up? He's basically, if Mac users know it as time machines, they just have a backup server in Trump Tower where they know it'll be safe in case Russia, the Ukrainians blow up the Russian servers over there. But the idea that Donald Trump would be engaged so heavily with Vladimir Putin, and Vladimir Putin wouldn't have that entire place hooked up, wouldn't have a tap on everything he could possibly have a tap on, is goofy. I mean, you don't get into bed with those kind of people and expect them to not have your number unless you're Donald Trump. And if you really believe that, you have to be Carter Page level dumb, which means he's just the one who's visibly bad at this. And what the FBI is finding out, it seems, is that Flynn and Manafort and as we all know, Kellyanne Conway and Sean Spicer are in the same league. They just display it differently. We'll be back. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT, Chicago's Progressive Talk, AM 820. Yes, my love? Yeah, hold on one second. I'll be right there. I shall return. I got 2 minutes. At those. That's because you got to go up this wall.
You can't.
Okay.
It's just on the other side.
You got to go in here. Maybe you have to break through this? Yeah. You get that? There. Okay, so that's what happens. You break through that wall. You punch it. See that? Okay, I got to go. I got to go back up. See this wall right here? You don't have to go past the wall. You can smash through walls that look like that. And then you go out this door. And then you shimmy across here. And then there you go. Here you go. Here, turn it to criminal. I'm coming. You gotta love having a little one. I'm back. How much time do we have, Lady B?
20 seconds to spare.
Woo, 20 seconds. Perfect timing. Yeah, we'll get to Jared in the next hour because I'm getting to that.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
So, as we discuss the element of the rest of the Trump campaign, including Trump himself, being Carter Page level dumb in their interactions with the Russians, ignorant on a massive scale about the level of essentially sinister element of the Russian oligarchy, of Putin and his ilk. You have to look at this guy and know that he arranges for poison to be sprayed in the faces of his political opponents, and reporters, so that they die painfully, not just to kill them and end that, but as a warning to others. And so when you operate with this, you have to look at this. When you even have, a scumbag like Bill O'Reilly saying Putin's a killer, and Trump's response is, we got a lot of killers. We think our country's so innocent? You have to understand that we're looking at this. I think most Americans look at that and go, why are you defending this guy? Clearly you have some sort of a shared relationship with him. That's very concerning. And so we look at it as no one could be so dumb as to trust Vladimir Putin on that level. Well, this may be the deeper, more concerning part of the Trump-Russia scandal, is that Trump actually bought or still buys that Putin is on his side, that Putin likes him, that his ego is so easily manipulated through baseline flattery, which we know it is. When the Chinese president can come over and effectively shake hands with him, tell him a little bit about the history of China and the Korean Peninsula, now he's his new best friend, and then go right back to his country where the news media is mocking Trump nonstop as an idiot. And yet Trump's like, we bonded. We were very bonding. There was a lot of bonding over the biggest slice of chocolate cake that, a person completely unaware of the irony of let them eat cake could possibly eat. Like, he could almost not make out that I just bombed another country because my mouth was full of the chocolate cake. I was like, we just dropped 58. Yeah, let me swallow. Oh, but this is so good. I can't stop eating it. Can't stop. So good. Mar-a-Lago chocolate cake. Biggest slice you'll ever eat. Which, by the way, anybody who's ever had the dubious experience of eating in a lot of what are, places of where people of classic wealth hang out, golf courses and places like that, you'll notice that the food is usually fairly horrifying, and it's volume they go for. It's just the T-bone steaks are gigantic. If you want broccoli, it's just blanched and has Velveeta poured over it, but there's a lot of it. It's rich food for rich poor people. People are pretending to be rich, and they go and eat at the club because they have a membership there, so they don't have to actually pay for it that day because it's part of their 9 lunches a month. And nobody has to know that their 9 buildings are underwater and that they owe $500 million to foreign investors, let's just say. So this idea, though, that Carter Page is the dumb one and that Trump is somehow, playing this circumstance to his benefit, ultimately means that this is the level of ignorance about the dangers of dealing with someone like Vladimir Putin are outside the scope of thought with this White House. And that may be the most singularly frightening aspect of this entire scandal, is the fact that they don't think it's a big deal and that they don't think the piper will have to be paid. Now, insofar, my own personal feeling about the Syria bombings is considering the fact that the aircraft that were seen in the area both before that bombing and afterwards, were fixed wing and Russian, that they were bombing quote-unquote rebel areas, that the Russians and Trump and the Syrians powwowed this into happening, perhaps through Bannon, and that's why the McMaster and those guys wanted him out, that they knew that this episode would have to play out, essentially. This is my own feeling. I have no evidence of this, but it reeks of it. And the fact that we let the Russians know and the Russians let the Syrians know and none of their equipment was effectively hurt and we didn't actually bomb the runways, we effectively, at this point, bombed some empty hangars. But it was something that, won the president 5 points in public policy polls. Between that and dropping the Moab, or allowing his generals without having to ask him, without civilian oversight of the military, to drop the biggest bomb we have, short of a nuke, in the Afghan desert over a series of tunnels. And the effectiveness of this long term, who can say? The Afghan president has decried it. Wants the U.S. out of Afghanistan. That's actually ratcheted that up. We're moving war carriers to around Korea, to kind of give this Bay of Pigs level blockade behavior in an act of machismo, when in fact the lack of coal sales from China, or to China rather, seem to be been as equally effective in getting North Korea to not launch a nuclear test and just have a gigantic march like they always do. Page spoke this week with Jake Tapper and said, it's just such a joke, it's beyond words. The Washington Post reported Tuesday that a judge granted the FBI a Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act warrant last summer in order to monitor Page after providing probable cause that he had acted on behalf of a foreign country. FISA warrants are granted sparingly, secretly, and require the approval of top FBI and Justice Department officials. The warrant to monitor Page's communications was reportedly part of the FBI's investigation into possible ties between the Trump campaign associates and Russia, which require lengthy testimony about why the agency should surveil Page. Proof of crime is not necessary in order to obtain one of these warrants. Of course not. A warrant is not, if you had proof of crime, you kind of wouldn't need a warrant most of the time. Warrants are so that you can go get evidence you have reasonable belief is there. That's true of all warrants. That is a curiously included sentence. Page said, if true, the Post report would be a, quote, game changer. People can lie to the American public all they want in politics. What's interesting about last night's report is, if it's true, there's a different standard when it comes to evidence in court, Page said. That's always true of a warrant. That's just goofy. All of this false evidence that you've been hearing about myself with the dodgy dossier and other false reports going back through most of last summer, well, that will have very different implications. So this is a real game changer if it turns out to be true, Page said, referring to a controversial report. If you'll notice, none of his language said this would turn out to be false. I never gave him any information when material is classified or in any way improper. Okay, keep saying that. We'll be back. It's House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Next chapter, Jared. Okay, switch iPads for the second half. Now we pull out the big dogs. I end up having so many pages open.
We have a couple callers, and
Great.
Dennis is here answering the phones.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Dennis. Oh, that's wonderful. Hi, Dennis.
He disappeared on me. Hold
Oh,
on.
it happens.
Hey, Hal, what's up, man?
Dennis!
How you doing?
I'm great. It's good to hear your voice, man. How are you?
Oh, man, doing all right. Just doing the weekday thing.
I love that you're here with us. Are
Yeah.
you just filling in because you're being a good man, or are you just hanging out doing some cutting and decided to drop by? What happened?
Filling in and doing some cutting.
I love that. I think that's a wonderful thing. We need to do more like cross-show bumpers for everybody, because I love me some Tom Hartman, but we got to get some new ones by
That
everybody.
Tom Hartman one's been going a while.
It has.
All
I need a Wayne Besson one. I'll give him one in return, and we'll you know what I'm saying?
The Wayne Besson show got canceled.
Oh, it did? Well, then I guess we don't
Yeah.
need one anymore.
We got a local guy doing more Chicago-focused news now.
Oh, that's good. That's a good thing.
Dick K said he was going to
Oh,
do one.
Dick K's gonna do one.
Oh, that I love. Yes.
And if you don't get it, I'll just do my impression of Dick K. We'll
That's
make it
right.
into it.
Let me hear it.
I'm coming back on Hal Sparks. Get ready.
That's pretty much on it.
Hal Sparks, he's a good man.
He's a good guy. He's been here a couple times. He's got all of his stuff all over the place when he comes in.
Mayor Rahm Emanuel.
Good guy or bad? We'll find out.
Well, good talking to you,
You
man.
too. I'm glad you're answering the phones. That's good. Hope
Yeah,
they're
man,
good.
miss you, buddy.
I do too. I'll be in Chicago soon. We're working it out now, but it won't be long. I'm going to
All
be
right,
in
I'll come
for-
and see you.
Yeah, and I'll be in one of the weekdays or something. That'll be great.
Cool.
Love it. Oh my god. Yeah.
One minute.
Lovely.
Yeah, Ben Jarofsky is now doing.
Okay.
Yeah. But Dick K was supposed to give me one a couple weeks ago, but I guess he forgot.
Well, have him whip off some audio as he's coming in today.
Yes. Okay.
That'd be lovely.
Okay. 20 seconds.
Lovely.
You're listening to
to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out on me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
Well, I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Damn puss-faced little pimp stick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Welcome back. Now, before we take a couple of calls, we take a slight diversion, a slight jog off the trail of Carter Page, useful idiot. Carter Page, useful idiot. For the Russians and the Bannon pro-Russian wing of the administration, which many stories have come out recently about them being at war with Kushner, Jared, the voice of reason, Ivanka's husband, who she really is the one who can rein in Trump when he gets on one of his ignorant tirades, except when it happens after sundown on Friday, because they observe Shabbos, and so they can't talk to him on the phone or be over at the White House. They have their own lives to live. So basically he's on his own for a full 24 hours, which Bannon has taken great advantage of, apparently, which has caused a lot of rifts in the White House between Bannon and Kushner. So as things get a little surly, apparently, with Russia, and Bannon representing the kind of pro-Russia wing of the Trump White House, allegedly, we get a little bit more friendly with China in this process. We start dealing with the difficulty of North Korea. We start sending ships over there. We start seeing, the president brings, this a big elaborate state experience to the redneck White House, Mar-a-Lago, the dump with giant chocolate cake that you can join for just $200,000 if you're a regular American, and any other foreign member. I guess it doesn't matter. You could be a Saudi prince. It doesn't matter, because they're not going to tell anybody who's a member and who's even there, and they're going to conduct international business and national security meetings within earshot of whomever is there. But I'm sure they're trustworthy. I'm sure if the Trump White House is this good at making sure everybody has filled out their documentation, so we know who they're talking to, and that they've got, if they've got any foreign ties, that certainly if you try to get a membership at Mar-a-Lago, they're going to check, right? They're going to know. They're going to make sure if you want to be a member of Mar-a-Lago now because the president owns the place and he's here the other weekend discussing where we're bombing and why over dessert with world leaders. If you want to be a member, you just got to fill out this extra form that says you haven't, you're not an agent for a foreign government or anything. It's something new we're doing with our own staff at the White House. So since this is the Southern White House, you're going to have to fill it out too. Oh, wait. Oh, you know what? You don't have to fill that out. That's silly. You're the member of a golf club. You paid $200,000 to be here and $14,000 a month just to hang out. So, yeah, of course, with that kind of money, you have to be trustworthy. We don't need to ask any more questions. As a matter of fact, the public never needs to know you were ever even here. We'll keep people from photographing you. We'll never, if you ever get a chance to golf with the president, which you'll get lots of chances because he's been here 17 times since he's become president. If you ever do get to golf with him, we won't release a list of who he does. And, you want to meet with him at the White House too? Yeah, that's super easy because we don't disclose if you go to the White House either. Why? Oh, because see, the president tweeted that Obama not releasing records of who he's meeting with was horrifying, and so therefore, in a fit of irony, we're not going to release who we're meeting with either. So if you want to come up to the White House and you're a member of Mar-a-Lago, nobody will be the wiser. Just talk to our executive of travel, Jeff Gannon. But in the White House, I got to say, if you want to be a part of the White House staff, you're going to have to fill out a piece of paper that says you never met with a foreign agent. Oh, wait, never mind. Jared Kushner failed to disclose Russian meetings on security clearance documents, report. Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law and senior advisor, reportedly failed to disclose a series of meetings with foreign leaders on documents submitted in pursuit of security clearance, including several meetings with Russian officials. Again, understand, everybody who runs the Russian government right now, who's in charge of any major element of the Russian government or is in charge of any kind of civil service level work, all the upper rungs are either buddies of Vladimir Putin who've been enforced into the position and are criminally corrupt to a level that they are siphoning billions of dollars out of the country, which, by the way, doesn't have them to give up. They're crooks. If Vladimir Putin has cleared them to talk to you, that means he trusts them. That means he's got stuff on them that he knows is illegal, and he's got them on a short leash. That's the only way he operates. That's why he's so close with Trump. I don't buy the whole thing about them being, mad at each other right now. It's a farce. Okay. Kushner omitted a meeting with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak. Oh, that guy again. What do you know? Nobody wants to admit meeting with Sergei until it's too late. And a separate meeting with Russian state-owned banking executive. The New York Times reported late Thursday, Kushner's attorney told the Times the omissions were made in error. That's so. It's funny how all of the omissions and errors center around meeting with Kislyak and Russian banking. Where is that server in Trump Tower again? What's that connected to? Yeah, a Russian bank. Okay, the state-run bank, by the way, the one that Vladimir Putin uses to shovel money into Cyprus. OPS, a member of the House committee, is traveling to Cyprus this week to look into it as part of his, Mediterranean tour / I need to peek into this bank a little bit. Trump aides ratcheted up their infighting as a result of his ascension. Chief strategist Steve Bannon and Kushner have reportedly fought behind closed doors in recent weeks. I guess it's over who's more important to our policy and our monetary protection as the outside of the presidency in terms of private business. Who's more important, the Russians or the Chinese? Because the Kushner's now, I guess, arguing that we have to protect this Russian connection because they just lost a multi-billion-dollar deal dealing with the 666 Fifth Avenue building that they had the sweetheart deal all set up, and then all this scrutiny started happening, and darn it, wouldn't you know it, they lost the deal, or did they? We'll see. Kushner holds, this is the connected, the revelation comes as Kushner's portfolio continues to grow and Trump's aides ratchet up the infighting as a result of his ascension. Chief strategist Steve Bannon and Kushner have reportedly fought behind closed doors, and Bannon allies blamed Kushner for the release earlier this week of unflattering stories about Bannon's removal from the National Security Council. By the way, Bannon's friends at Breitbart have threatened, quote, all-out war, Armageddon, if Bannon is removed from the process. And they've already started ratcheting up anti-Semitic hate stories about Kushner in their pages. Not like they wouldn't want to the rest of the time, but they've really, they laid it on thick. Kushner holds a temporary security clearance while the FBI processes his paperwork and required background check. Temporary. So he's already got clearance while they're checking. And while they're checking, what did they find out? He didn't disclose meetings with Russian bankers and with the Russian ambassador, who's tied to everybody, including, who else didn't disclose meeting with him? Carter Page. Professional moron. Senior members of the Trump administration have been plagued by allegations, like they caught it like a cold, by allegations of inappropriate ties to Russian officials during the campaign and transition. Allegations of inappropriate ties. No, if they've been plagued by anything, it's an STD they got from Russian officials during the campaign and the transition. They didn't accidentally catch it. They just weren't taking care of themselves. You know what I'm saying? Democrats have accused Trump campaign aides of colluding with Russian officials to leak emails that would damage Hillary Clinton's campaign before Election Day last year. Those claims have not been substantiated by several ongoing investigations in the House, Senate, and Department of Justice. The White House has defended Kushner's contacts with foreign leaders by noting that his job on the transition team involved opening lines of communication with various foreign leaders ahead of Trump's inauguration. Gee, whose defense did we hear about that? How did they defend Flynn? Almost that exact same language. Not an accident. And this is Jared now, the smart one, the one who can keep Trump in control, the one who that hopeful people look to as a voice of reason within the Trump White House and a counterbalance to the maniacal Bannon who has been running things heretofore. P.S. I agree that there's probably some fighting going on there. It seems the reports are so voluminous and obvious that they're real. The problem is I don't think they're fighting because one of them wants what's good for the country and the other wants what's bad for the country. I think they have two versions of bad, and they're arguing about which one gets to do it first. We'll be back. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Your calls after this. Yes, my love. Yeah? Here, I'll show you. Okay, I'll come with you. I'll be right back, chat room. Hold on. Yep. Right.
There.
Oh.
Hit the button because
Oh, you have to climb. Okay.
Get up there.
Uh-huh. Right. Right. Right.
Climb across and then
$20 seconds again.
Thank you. I enjoy the Casper mattress chat room, by the way.
Now back to the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
Just as we were in the break, Michael in our chat said, did you see right-wing blowhard Mike Cernovich is threatening to, quote, destroy marriages if Bannon is fired? Yes. So that was tied to this whole, like, if he gets junked, we're going to go after everybody. Yeah. And the other, the obvious question in those situations is, if you know people are criminally negligent with national security, or you think that they mean the ill of the United States, or you have information on them that you've been holding about their moral turpitude, why keep it? Unless you yourself are because a blackmailer themselves is effectively complicit in the crime committed by the person, whatever if someone is cheating on their wife, for example, or their husband, and you're going to use that, the blackmailer themselves isn't morally above the actual cheating. They're allowing it to continue with their awareness for financial gain later. So, A, they're not morally better than the person who's cheating because they're using that cheating. They're allowing it to go on. They don't care about the other person. They're equally guilty as the person who's in the relationship who's doing the cheating that they're going to hold us against. And they want to make money off of it, so they're twice as bad. So the idea that Cernovich is, I'm going to show them, if you believe that they're doing something that's morally wrong and that you think is reprehensible, not talking about it, especially if you're part of the family values crowd, is a bit absurd. I'm just saying, like the irony is palpable. Secondly, the idea that Bannon is the guy that you're protecting with that is the impressive part. So let's take a couple calls if we could, Lady B. I know Dennis is actually working the phone, so I hope everybody's being awesome to Dennis, who joined us today temporarily. So big kudos to Dennis. Who do we have, Lady B?
We have Steve from the Gold Coast.
Excellent. Hey, Steve. I feel like it's been a while. It's been maybe a couple weeks. I hope all's well.
Oh.
Hi.
Life keeps you busy.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, okay, a couple of points. One, I mean, I think we've got this really confusing narrative with regard to the bombing, and it's one that, that people should be made aware of. On the one hand, you've got the Russians who contend that it was the Syrians that, in fact, bombed the areas in question, but they hit the so-called weapons cache, chemical weapons caches of the rebels, which is what exploded.
There's an echo.
On the other hand, the official position of the Syrians is now that this entire thing is fake, that none of this will actually happen, and it's all a giant stage act.
Excuse me, Steve?
Well, at the same time,
hold on one second. Steve, we have an echo for some reason. He sounds fine to me.
Okay.
Just so you know. So I can hear him just fine. Is it echoing his voice out? Is that what's happening?
Yes.
That's happening there. I can't throw a switch.
Right.
Dennis, run in and save the board. Anyways, Steve, just hold for a second because I want you to make that point, and we'll try and work that out. We can put Steve on hold for 1 second in terms of the narrative, and I think we'll see if I'll kind of pick up where he was talking about, and the fact that the Syrians are saying, yeah, we bombed the area, and the Russians are saying, yeah, the Syrians bombed the area, but it was because they hit the sarin gas stores of the rebels, who, in the middle of a war zone are cultivating castor beans and making sarin gas of their very own, I suppose, or shipping them in through God knows where. But the idea is that they didn't drop those chemical stores; they just hit the ones that were there, which is what you would say. So the issue, going forward is that the Syrian government operates under a level of scrutiny that makes. Yes, do you think we've solved it?
Yeah, I think we got this, man. Hal, how's it going?
Excellent. Thank you, Dennis. Bless your heart.
Let's go to Steve-O in the Gold Coast.
Big hug. Yeah. Steve, welcome back. Go ahead.
Okay. Except Dennis was echoing on my end now, but okay. As long as you guys can hear me, correct?
Yeah. Yep. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yep, we can hear you.
I would think that they would tend to be on the same page in terms of the narrative rather than, countervailing narratives. Now, I don't know if that's intentional or not. Is it does it negate the notion that this is somehow all staged? I'm not sure yet. Again, as you pointed out, you offered up an opinion and you said, you don't have the evidence for this, and neither do I. Other than, that none of these people are on the same page. What the Syrians are saying differs from what the Russians are saying. We're supposed to be their allies. And what the Russians are saying differs from what the Trump administration is saying.
Which, by the way, is a strategy. Understand, too, that if they were both if they were on the same page, if they were on the same page, it would.
Only time will tell, in my view. Right. Secondly, with regard to these issues in general, I mean, the assumption here is that any of this sort of fact-based analysis is going to resonate with core Trump supporters. Just simply isn't true. The fact is that these people, elected Donald Trump because the places that they're going to get their information from are fake news outlets. You know, and they pretty much reconcile themselves to any sort of rational explanation about these stories about Donald Trump's link to Russia, about Hillary Clinton's emails having been hacked, about our elections having been compromised. That's all fake news. That's fake news from the mainstream media. It is being told to them by their version of that's coming from the alt-right, and by the way, from the Russians. There was a great piece by Ross on Nightline this past week that went through the exact chronology of how we got here, which includes, the fact that the Podesta WikiLeaks dump came exactly 29 minutes after the Access Hollywood story broke. It would have compromised Donald Trump's campaign. Now, that's not a coincidence.
No.
That somebody obviously decided that, okay, well, Donald Trump is about to take a big hit here, and we need to have something out there to countervail
muddy the water.
Reality. And, so people really do need to look into where they're getting their information. But, it turns out that, that these people are in this little circle where, there are people in Russia manipulating our internet, and they're making sure that these are the stories that the people on the alt-right are consuming. And people like Cernovich are quite frankly puppets who are profiting from this because, he goes
not to mention Macedonian citizens who are making a living doing this.
He's obviously out there along with Alex Jones and others. They're the ones willing to do this sort of thing. And it's going to take legal action. It's the people like, for instance, Mr. Elefantes in Washington, D.C., who threatened to sue Alex Jones and forced him to apologize for the ridiculous contentions he made about Pizzagate.
Right. Well, I agree. And Steve, I don't know that you could hear me during that period, so I just wanted to let you get those points across. And cogent ones they were. The issue in terms of the Russia and Syria storylines diverging is not an accident, because if their stories lined up too well, it makes them look too hand in glove. So the idea is that you have two versions of innocence that occur to create the idea of reasonable doubt. It's the same argument that you would have two high-priced attorneys who are defending a rich murderer would present two possibilities. One, the conspiratorial, somebody else did this, and the other that that nobody knows who may have done this. And it's super easy to run that storyline if you have two people running them. If it sounds like a cohesive narrative, too cohesive a narrative, then the cohesion creates more questions as a problem. Then people go, wait a minute. Russia and Syria are saying the exact same thing about this. Either they know and they have evidence of it, and that's why they're both saying the same thing, or they both got together and got their story straight. And that's, straight up RICO, that's straight up racketeering. And that's why you have two different stories from these organizations. And you should expect them as well. So not surprising at all. Let's see. We got to take a break in another minute, so I'll take more calls right after this. We actually do have a happy ending that is Illinois based, which is what makes it even better. There's some great work being done right now, and some of it right here in the state, and I couldn't be more proud of it. I think people in Illinois should be very proud of it, and we'll talk about that at the happy ending. But we got a couple more calls we'll take right after this break. We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Okay, Dennis showed me his little trick because it still echoes. So what he does is he have me turn you off and put you on cue where I can hear you when you get ready to speak.
Right.
And then when he
you can punch me in.
Right, then he punches you in.
Understood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it because of the Bluetooth, you think?
No.
No? Okay.
Because it's always the same setup.
Okay.
So
then we got to check this board then.
Some sort of weird loop there. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to check this board then. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
No worries. Oh, Lord. Oh my God. What's bedhead? This is bedhead, I suppose. It's what I would call dadhead. When you're playing about. Oh, there we go. The wind has finally died down a little bit here. Man. It goes with the dead kitten. What? Oh my.
30 seconds, and we have Keith, Bill, and Dave.
Cool. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
Welcome back. By the way, just letting you guys know, Wednesday night on Comedy Central, I will be on Comedy Jam. Look it up. I'm singing an AC/DC song and telling a rather untoward story. And joining me will be my dear friend Sebastian Bach, who I've had the joy of singing with before, and I'm pulling out my full Brian Johnson voice on this. So in honor of Johnny Million being part of a new AC/DC cover band that he has joined, apparently there's a convergence of time streams in dealing with that. But that's this Wednesday night on Comedy Central. And I will be on CNN International on Monday night at 9 o'clock, I believe 9 o'clock Pacific time. Follow me on Twitter for more details. I'll know more on Monday when they're going to schedule me and during what hour. And Tuesday night, if you're in the LA area, I will be singing at the Whiskey A Go-Go, the famous whiskey, with Doug Pinnick of King's X and KXM. I will be doing Dogman with him as part of their tribute night, which is part of their. I think the theme is Rock Has No Color. It's about it's a tribute night to bands that have rock and metal bands that have multiracial memberships. So yeah, follow me on Twitter for all that information, or I will just see you at the show. All right. We have another caller. Who do we have? Lady B, is it Keith up first?
Yes, Keith.
Cool. Go ahead, Keith. Welcome.
Hey, Hal. How are you doing? Great show.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I listen to you often. Unfortunately, I'm a devout Trump supporter, but I'm having a little bit of second thoughts. But then I hear you pillaging these guys about their Russian ties and linking it with Vladimir Putin, And I don't know that Vladimir came over here, met these guys individually, and, you know, tried to coerce them into anything. If you read any of the books about how the spooks do this, especially all the ones that are written from the ex-CIA guys, it takes a long time, a long process, and
I
eventually
appreciate,
they practically volunteer.
Right. I appreciate where you're coming from.
I think the facts are a little bit skewed. So, but that aside, so how are you going to convince me I'm on the wrong side of the fence? I'm interested.
Okay. I appreciate the call, and I'm glad you're open to the idea of being convinced. I think the best way to start is with Putin didn't come over here and meet with them specifically. Well, if you look at Flynn's ties to Russia, Flynn not only came over, sat at the Russian television, the propaganda television channel of the Russian government, sat at the same table with Putin, but led a standing ovation for the man. So led it. Wasn't one of the people who stood during it. Didn't just kind of hang out and was, well, this is was socialized into doing it. Led a standing ovation for him. Paul Manafort and Michael Flynn both hiding their ties to Russia because they knew they were sketchy, and then having to again reform these. Carter Page would fall under the idea of the useful idiot zone. Manafort was doing shady business. Flynn was operating as part of the Trump campaign, and whether he did it willingly or from a point of ignorance is yet to be found. But there's no question that he was very comfortable with Vladimir Putin enough to, like I said, lead a standing ovation for the man. The man, by the way, who had Russian agents spray radioactive material into the face of a reporter and murder him, to hire people to pose as rebel fighters in the Ukraine and in Kiev, killing people, and then saying they're not our soldiers, they're not our forces, when they were absolutely garnered with it. So the man himself, being that suspect, I think every kind of entrance into our democracy that Putin has moved into as a foray is available to him, meaning that some people are dealt with, like Carter Page, as useful idiots. Others are actively courted for financial benefit. Others are blackmailed. Trump's biggest concern, and I think what a lot of people are concerned about, is his continued inability to call Putin out, even for the most obvious negatives in his character, reek of someone who is being blackmailed or owes the man money. Now, we know that Trump had somewhere in the order of $400 to $600 million in loans from Deutsche Bank and others, and Deutsche Bank itself is, was fined for laundering money for the Russian mafia, drug money specifically, and that tie is not accidental. Again, Trump had a server in his building, and for all practical purposes, as far as we know, still does, tied to a Russian bank, which is state-run. Anybody, and again, you can support the man and believe in what he was pushing for, hardline immigration policies, those, this idea of making America great again by building infrastructure, which, by the way, is a hugely democratic idea. That's the irony of his attachment to, to an infrastructure bill, which, the only people shutting down infrastructure growth and protection and rebuilding in this country have been Republicans over the last 4 decades. But the fact that this president is pushing something that is so heavily, nearly a Bill Clinton idea, is ironic on its face. You can be for those things, and that's what you voted for, that you want to keep factories in the United States, by the way, which none of them are actually happening. Most of the job growth that he's touting was stuff that was already under agreement before he came into office under the Obama administration. It just takes that long to happen. A lot of them are actually being downsized, but they make good, wax stand-up kind of experiences for the press, but ultimately don't turn out to be true. But the questioning about Trump's ties to Russia and collusion between them and their desire to win is as deep or as wide as you need it to be to get the point across. It is all about your willingness to accept reality when it comes out and say to yourself, if any of this stuff, if Hillary Clinton was president, or Barack Obama was president, or Bill Clinton was president, or if Al Gore had gotten in, and all this stuff started coming to light, and not rumors, if their national security advisor was the shortest serving national security advisor in the history of the office, and had to after the fact, he had to register as a foreign agent. If the person who ran his campaign all the way up to election day, effectively, or nearly election day, and then had to leave because of his ties to Russia, and he is now going to flip for the FBI and is registered as a foreign agent, and you find out that he has been involved in all these shady Russian deals. And then you go look at Alexei Navalny and the people who are trying to have just a standard election in Russia, and what is happening to them. What happens to reporters who stand up against Putin? This dossier that came out that BuzzFeed published, that the news organizations are saying we're not going to publish it because it's not, parts of it are just completely unverifiable, are turning out to be verified by multiple sources again and again and again. And Alex Jones, who believes the world is basically run by the Illuminati, is all of a sudden okay with Donald Trump bombing Syria, moving warships around Korea, basically letting generals decide physical action, tactical action in the field on a measure that, without any government oversight, without actually going to Congress about it. If you were okay, would you be okay with Obama bombing Syria without going to Congress? Well, if you're not, then why are you okay with Trump doing it? Those are the questions you have to ask yourself. And this is beyond where there's smoke, there's fire. What this is emblematic of racketeering. This is a criminal enterprise that has gone on as a part of the regular cost of doing real estate business in Manhattan and in other countries by multinational corporations, which is what the Trump organization is a multinational real estate corporation involved in actual physical sites and licensing throughout the globe. Same as Kushner. His father went to jail for attempted blackmail and basically witness intimidation. Ultimately, this idea that they were going to start manipulating the witnesses against their criminal financial dealings. And Trump's daughter marries into this family, and they have linked sites that they're involved in business-wise. He hasn't removed himself from his businesses. He is not legally, entered into a situation where he isn't profiting from and won't, which is the big thing, won't profit from these things. That's the part I can't believe that most Trump supporters are okay with, is the fact that for him, this is just 4 years of taking a break. He was broke for that long on the 2008 turnaround, which, by the way, he made money on ultimately, but he had to borrow a lot of the money to keep his properties afloat from sketchy Russian-tied banks. Now he owes those people somewhere in the order of $600 billion. I mean, it's insane. Sorry, $600 million, like for each of these buildings. The ties that he has to these groups, you have to go, what do you believe about Vladimir Putin? Would you believe he would be okay with housing a server in the basement of your building and not knowing you were on the team? Would he do that? For Christ's sake, would you do that? Would you invite Michael Flynn to sit at the table of your propaganda TV station if you weren't either knowing or hoping he would be on the team? And still this president can't find a single bad word to say about Vladimir Putin. I don't buy it. I think if any of these things, one of them, was true about Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama, you'd scream with outrage, but you let it slide because it's Trump. And you hope that the 2 or 3 of his promises, which, by the way, he has either reversed on or backed off of, with the exception of bombing places without thinking it through, he's ditched. We give up the Rio Grande if we build the wall. Got that? We lose ground to Mexico if we build the wall. Americans lose their property if we build the wall. And it won't be built. Understand that. It's going to be a continual fence. They're losing Border Patrol agents left and right. It's not wrong to want some of the things he promised. It's how he promised to get them that's morally sketchy. And he's proving that he doesn't care. He doesn't care. We'll be back. South Sports Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT. Thank you, Professor Pink. Thank you, Professor Frank. Really appreciate that. Lovely.
Yo, man, it's Dennis. We got 2 calls.
I couldn't. I guess I wasn't talking to the guy until after, right? I said,
yeah. It's kind of like Donahue, man, with this today. Like, hey, what do you got to say? I'll take my answer off the air, kind of thing, you know?
Yeah. Well, let him know that then.
Yeah. I told him.
Yeah. Okay. Sending Grandma Stitches pics. Poor thing. He's so good, though. Oh, Camden's. Oh, God. Thank you, Charles. Really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And thanks for everybody for contributing on the Super Chat. Awesome. Yeah. Camden apparently, there's a little dollar sign Gricicle at the bottom of the thing if you want to contribute. That's where that would be. If you want anybody you want to do any amount is always welcome. It's some of you have seen the studio being built out. That's where it all goes. I greatly appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you, Carl. Appreciate it. I have, so Cam was playing crisscross applesauce on the couch, which is just how they cross their legs in class, and wrapped his legs up and apparently started to fall over and couldn't stop himself. I didn't see it because my mom was FaceTiming with him when it happened, but he was like looking at it sideways this way.
Hey, Hal, is worldwide one word or 2?
Mega worldwide, and it's worldwide is one word, and it's I usually do mega dash worldwide just for fun because it becomes too crazy a word. Yeah.
Coming back.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the HSRP.
Yeah, you say M. You can say the whole M. That's right. Did we lose Dennis? Did he fall off? What happened?
I'm here, buddy.
Oh, there you are. Okay, good. I thought I'd lost you. Welcome back to HSRPM. Yes, the House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. We call it that because, quite frankly, we're on the internet, and that means everywhere, except Russia and China. Curiously, the 2 places that are tied most to this White House. I couldn't notice that. That's a little all right. And you're listening to, of course, my band 01's, Trump anthem, American Psycho, which you can buy on iTunes. Just look up 01 featuring Hal Sparks on there. Okay, we have a couple more callers. Let's grab one of them. I know it's a little hard, so everybody just give your point and I'll answer, and then that quick because we're having a bit of an echo issue, I guess. So who do we have first?
All right, we're going to go to Bill in Naperville.
Love
Bill,
it.
What's going on, buddy?
Hey, first of all, R.I.P. to Jay Giles.
Yeah.
That guy knew how to rock, and that whole band.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, my bigger point is, though, I'm really getting tired of Trump insulting President Obama by name while he's a sitting president. I've been following presidents since Lyndon Johnson, and I can never remember, especially outside of a campaign, a sitting president insulting a previous president by name. I mean, that was just never done before. And, the people who think that Trump has any class at all, I think he's given it up by doing that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Appreciate the call. I think there's an embarrassing part of this that, obviously our first African American president as well, that just understand how people hear that, myself included, not just members of the African American community, by the way, but human beings who are aware of the depth of importance of that fact, that not having just the decency to check yourself a little bit. First of all, stick to what's real, what's true. That seems to be nearly impossible for this man. But at least my only hope is that one day Donald Trump could give the same deference to the first black president of the United States that he gives to Vladimir Putin. It is amazing to me that there's barely a good word about a president of this United States, the 44th president of the United States, no matter what their differences were. He's not running against the man. That he would give him the same deference that he gives to the leader of a country where that leader can arrange to have poison sprayed in the face of his political adversaries. Let that sink in. It goes beyond class to simple common decency. I appreciate the call, and it's a great point. Let's grab another caller. Sorry, I can't hear. We can't talk over these guys. So just say your piece, and I will answer it after the fact. So who do we have, Dennis?
Up next is a member of the Hoffman Estates community, Dave.
What's
going on,
Hoffman?
Dave?
Hey, Al. Yeah, real quick on the one thing you're talking about, Trump's treated. Maybe you should start calling him Little Lord Fauntleroy. And the point I was going to get across, I mentioned to Dennis, I just read that there's an update on that from that bombing now that they've had 94 that have been killed and supposedly no civilians that they claim. And then the only one really grumbling about it, he's crawled out from under his rock, was Hamid Karzai. He's complaining, saying that by Afghans letting them do the U.S. to carry this out, that it was treason and an insult to Afghanistan. There's a real grateful guy, huh?
Right.
I'll take you off the air.
I appreciate it. First of all, where to start? The reality is the fact that because of our own lack of consistency as a country, and ending up in a situation where we have an authorized use of military force for Afghanistan that has never been re-upped, that requires that basically abdicates congressional oversight over any kind of warlike behavior in that country, even still, is crazy. And so whatever he does, it's the fault of Congress that it is occurring. Now, granted, certain Democrats are trying to get this to happen. The idea that Paul Ryan won't bring it to the floor or even entertain the idea is indicative of how they feel about it. He needs this, toy box to bomb, essentially as cover. I mean, it's one of those. It's such an obvious wag the dog, and in many ways, one of the reasons why it's such the perfect target and an example of what he would like to do is that they use such a huge bomb and they say there are no civilian casualties. Well, that doesn't mean that there aren't people there who weren't fighters. It just means that they consider anybody who's there, including people who are being kept as slaves by ISIS, by Al-Qaeda, by whomever the people there that are running that camp, that the slaves and children and women that are being held there against their will are as guilty as the people who get killed. There are no innocents in that house, is the idea, in those tunnels. So that is a factor when you hear them say that no innocents killed or whatever, just because it wasn't near a town. But this is a group who keeps slaves. This is a group who keeps people against their will, who funds a lot of what they do via taking hostages. And we would be the first country to blow someplace up that had hostages in it and be unaware. But usually we're the ones who admit that it has happened and say that it's wrong and we don't want it to happen again. It was an accident. We don't know that fact because right now the way they're going to announce this and the way they will continue to announce this is that it was a ISIS tunnel complex. Anybody who died is an enemy combatant. Anybody. That's standard fare. Just to understand that. Okay, so and then in terms of Trump's idea about what it means to be in charge of these things, that he can't bomb Syria in any kind of measurable way. So moving boats around and when the Chinese have already agreed that they're not going to receive coal from North Korea as a way of sanctioning them to drive them back, because it's one of that and weapons are the ways that North Korea makes its money. By turning those back, that's a huge cash problem for Korea. That's what helped stop that nuclear test. That's pressure from China. It's pressure they almost always have on. It's not unheard of. They've done it before. So that being said, I think it's time for the happy ending. We only got a couple minutes left, so I want to do this because I think this is super important. And we won't have the song. By the way, one of the happy endings, Dennis being here this week. Good to hear your voice again, man.
Happy ending. Happy ending.
That's right. Can you record that? I'm gonna make that that's now the super short happy ending song. I just want a sample of that in the board. Okay, first of all, there was a story this week, and this is part of our happy ending. The Democrats in Illinois just unseated a whole bunch of Republicans. In spite of local elections, in a spate of local elections last week in Illinois, Democrats picked up seats in places they've never won before. The city of Kankakee elected its first African-American Democratic mayor. West Deerfield Township will be led entirely by Democrats for the first time. Elgin Township voted for a complete changeover, flipping to an all-Democratic board, all because, in many ways, of a push by our own Sherry Bustos, representative from Illinois, Democrat, who is holding what she's calling I'll find the link for it, basically gatherings to teach people how to run for office. I will post it on my Twitter feed. It's amazing. 11 candidates they've convinced to run. I think 9 have won. One is one vote away from winning in a recount. Way to go, Illinois. Love you guys. Love you, chat room. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care. Thank you, Dennis. See you next week. I was looking for the link for this thing when I was leaving. Thank you so much, Dennis. Thank you, Lady B. You guys are awesome.
I thought you didn't love me anymore.
No, I did. I thought you'd left the room. I was like, did you swap seats? All I hear is Dennis right now. I don't know where you went.
No, I'm just learning his tricks.
Oh,
Make
yeah.
Sure I get it.
Oh, he has lots of them. Don't learn all of them.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Ooh. That's my Ted Knight impression. That's the best I can do.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I recorded that spot that you did, so I got it for me. So when I'm down, I get to laugh.
I'll do a whole tape. I'm going to do a whole YouTube thing of impressions just for Lady B. Like, I'm going to like, this is what Lady B gets to watch whenever she needs a good laugh. So I'm just going to do every impersonation in a row in my repertoire just for you.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. You're wonderful. Don't forget to have Dick K do a little liner for me as he's coming in real quick. Just, you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, if you can get that out in one big breath. And give him a hug for me, and I will talk to you guys next time.
All right.
Bye.
Have a great weekend.
Bye. Bye,
Happy
Dennis.
Easter.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye. All right. Well, that's us, kid. That's a show. I'm going to go play with Legos with my kid. Here, I'll show you real quick what I spent all night building last time. This is only part of it. Camden has tied it together. This is the Lego truck situation that we built last night, and then he attached this Lego car with the robber in it. The guy was towing this whole truck with this morning. This little Russian operative that was stealing a police truck. I don't know why, but there you go. And you go, well, why would it take so long to build a truck like that? Well, first of all, this thing is dense as hell. And then the second reason is that this has moving parts in it. That takes a little while. It gets a little tricky. But we did it. We worked it out. And he was, this is one of those things where he's not quite at the point where he can build. His fingers are still tiny a little bit, and it's a little hard, but we had a great time, and he was helping me find the next piece by looking at what was coming up. It was totally adorable. And considering he had just been to the hospital and had his face sewn up, he was particularly great in that circumstance. So just, yeah. Yeah. But anyways, thanks everybody who, thanks for the super chat today. You guys, I really appreciate it. Professor Frank, Charles, Carl, bless you. Thank you guys a ton. Don't forget to send out those links and have people like and subscribe to the page, to the site, because that really helps us. Ultimately, we've cleared 5,000. Our next goal is 10. Once we do 10, I can use the YouTube facilities in Los Angeles, which really helps us, and all that stuff. Yeah, we went to Legoland yesterday. That's where we actually got that. They're not dissolvable stitches. They have to be taken out on Tuesday. His mom's going to take him to the doctor on Tuesday to see his regular pediatrician who's going to remove them, and hopefully that he has a fairly steady hand, although I think one of the nurses will ultimately do it. That's what, my mom's a nurse, and she was usually the one to do it. So anyways, have a great weekend, you guys, and thanks for joining on this one and being patient when I had to run downstairs, and I'm going to go play with him now because that's what I'd rather be doing. Anyways, much love to you guys. I can't thank you enough, and I will see you next time. Yeah, as we all go into this and hopefully avoid Armageddon.